Telegraphing at higher lengths to screen lines, high adaptation, and pixelation graph calculations, knowing exact line conditions. Inner child, Spider-Man. What does Spider-Man represent to me? It positions all levels of webbing, spidey senses, right? It's very powerful when you wear a t-shirt. You are the t-shirt. I am a t-shirt. We have to understand the process, how to use the mind. That's the conception that we're all coming into, is the knowledge of its own system to its settings. Now, they get you in all levels and all in its communication to its system, all through tractions, right? So you guys are working line communication settings. And when I say working, you're working towards what you already know, which is your memory. Getting back your memories puts you in all levels of process and positions. Your alterations of your mind in locations, how you come into out of the subterraneans and you come into the line condition of the cerebral. Higher lines of height, positional levels of graphing, getting your telewavings, telecommunications, and all levels of teleportation. Try to understand more levels of youth in the mind. Right? This is the process that we all understand. And every time I say process, I'm talking about everything through progression that we all come into. It's the mind that changes everything. Okay, it changes everything. Becoming aware, guys. So you have a brain that intercepts the setting. The brain itself is its own intelligence. You guys have to come back into that. You have to understand the process of what it's trying to do. It's trying to understand everything of its volume. It's trying to understand everything where it is. It's trying to understand its acceptance. It's trying to understand, well, why is it seeing this and why is it seeing that? And then it gets in its own self-recording when you go into recharge and remote. And in that position, you start to realize these things. You start to see the actual connections of yourself. You actually see the brain of its interface come to you. It looks at you, right? That's a process we all have to come into. It's kind of like you jump in a pool in position, like Free Willy in position where he fell in the pool. He sees the eyes of the whale. Boom, right? Interaction right there, interfacing with eye perceptions. Eye perception is everything. Okay, that's the windows of the soul that we are all trying to reach back of who we are, of conception. The conception line calculation setting puts everything in the ground lines of formation to its system, right? It's not about the abundance, not about the manifestation, because you already have that. What it's about is understanding how to use the mind. Understanding how to use the mind is understanding your heart. Understanding the heart is understanding your soul. Understanding your soul is understanding what your body is doing in transformation. It's changing its anomalies inside of you. So if you understand the space of its settings, then you understand your system location to an inner child, Spider-Man, right? Again, what does this mean to you? Because it means something different to me. You see this in a different perception. You're not going to see this until you understand what that is. It's intelligence. It's a face of recognition of intelligence. It's aware of everything that you say. It's aware of everything you do. It has its own space, has its own time, has its own formation, has its own clocking, has its own universe. It's the same thing as you. You're in particles, so is everything else. And that's what you're coming back to, of its memory of you first. Now, once you understand that, the connection setting of the cerebral is going to put a higher levels of septification of telegraphing communication. You're crafting your design in position to your mapping sequence and centers. During septification is when you go into recharge. When you close your eyes, you know exactly where you are. In line conditions, you understand the line setting is over here. You understand position traction is over here. You understand your graph calculation line interference, your position location. You have your clock and line conditions. You have 6 hours. You're going to be in position of. In line communications, you're seeing yourself walking, you're seeing yourself talking, you're seeing yourself where you need to be in your spiritual adaptation, right? So that's what we're all coming back into, is the mind itself. The mind relates to everything. It's metaphorically designed, but it's true that you understand the space inside you is balancing of your polarities of your earth, your polarities of your space, and your polarities of time. Okay? You have to understand the earth and space of time of you. 1 + 1 = 3, right? This is a process that we're all coming back to. Not coming into something, you're coming out of something that you've already been through. This is what we have to understand, and you see it through its image. And when you see it through its image, it's much easier to process because you understand the frequencies, you understand the patterns, and you understand the mapping sequence. It's all in line communication, your binaries, how you come into the line condition setting location of the system, and then you start accepting of who you really are and who you really, really aren't. Okay? Inline calculations, you have to really understand that adaptability, guys. That's the process we all have to understand. Okay? All right, so test on Friday. So that's based on everything through your solar sails. Hemdahl's already sent his in position, his calculations, all settings. Action line condition center interference. I'll show you information screen. It's pretty amazing when you come in position location attractions. So now in position location solar sail. Okay. Solar sail. See it? Look how powerful that is. Look at that. Look amazing things that you can do through solar graph calculations, all through traction. Right? See the solar sails, see the towers of communication, number sequence patterns, atom line rotations, molecule design lines, high surface location settings, and trapplication of binaries. All set location of the system. Right? So there's so many ways of looking at your line condition, your inside position of travels. To understand you and all communication, its position of its program is to understand you through all calculations, especially when you come into your tethers, right? Your 5 atmosphere line screens, your applications to Earth, right? See how you can see it and you can't see it. See how powerful you are inside line condition setting. It's not coming from outside; it's coming from inside you of your light. That's what you got to protect is your light. That's the formations of you inside conditions. Right, in all set locations, right? You see it and you can't see it. See it, you can't see it. See it, you can't see it, right? So the Earth line communication line centers of 5 tethers and communications. And settings of process. Coming in team communication centers of travel. Okay. Now, Earth line has a rotation line spin that sets the location system in set line connections. Right? So in that line calculation setting, once you understand the box frequencies and position your setting locations, you understand the files of communication line screens at 3 track line connections. Okay, so that's what the connections of the team is in right now, right? Triangulation line calculation setting, box triangulation, that's it in location. Right? Split the anomalies, correlation, setting attractions. There it is. There's the tesseract in position location of Merkaba in your tetrahedron. Okay? That's where you are in setting, right? So once you cut that off, line connection, high center interference, in line position locations, it's amazing when you come in off calculation lines, setting lines and communications, right? You're no longer tether, right? So it's like no strings attached. No strings attached, right? That's what's going to happen in the team line. The team has to understand the modification lines into modulation screens, pixelation activation screen locations, high calculation modifications and modification interference, direct modification high calculation lines of your tethers and atmosphere location that travels. So line setting in position of your micros comes into your macros. That gets you out of set design, right? Understanding your algorithms in line connection settings to your filters and communication getting out of that calculation so it's background and it's foreground. Okay, that's the box triangulation box. Okay, so you're in the between of 2 line settings. To set yourself free is out of the box triangulation. Sets position lines off calculation line screen out of tether communications, right? So that formulates in all direct signals of all communication in the system and travel. Puts all levels of you in all position locations in freedom and set connections to your Earth, to your astros, and your soul, and your identifications to your ethereal plane communication. Hoo-ah! So from this, you're set free. You're no longer tethered. You have no electrical line condition of a cord anymore, position location line conditions, but you're still instruction line calculations. Get into the alpha, mega, micro, macro, put your position out of structure of design, guys. higher levels of set location depth. The team line is setting line communication of the mind line. The conceptual line screen is putting higher lines of communication to its program and set connections. All levels of high calculation, a separation. Full separation settings. Okay, in a full balance. All right. So that's the equation that's in settings so you guys get your macros. All right, so in that position to its line center, we all come back into solar sail. Setting line connection line center is in inference, in position of letters, track correlation, sending attractions, putting lines of communication settings of tether. 3-track lines of high interference. We always work with the in and the out in the audio. There's a correlation track lines when we speak. We understand our tones and position lines of center interference. The connection line centers put you at a higher self, calculates highest interference in position cerebral, sets lines track location line centers, sets lines off calculation of tether and teleportation. Okay. So in that line center line interference puts 5 line track lines. Directing lines of position modifications of 3 settings and travel. Molecule set locations. Point lines of settings. Okay, we color it the line communications. All levels of false. Now, what you send the false narrative lines, the truth is always in the center of communications. Okay, always in the center. Truth is always in the center position line operation. If it changes line communication, it changes its tether in set location of travel. Okay. Point lines of tracks sets position operation. So I'm trying to get the team ready and what they're coming into and what they're coming line screens high sending. Okay. So add a structure, add a design, puts you into all communications. Macro design lines. Okay. So the acronym and line calculation setting, the structure line communication setting changes your position location of MODs into out of specifications of structure of design. That gets you into line calculation setting and all line communications, all line center interference of face recognition. Okay. That's what the team's coming into. All right. So in track communication line centers, in position, we're going to do the review because tomorrow's a test, which is already here. So getting direct line centers and how to use your alpha waves. You got your alpha lines, you got your deltas. Let's start with location of 3-track locations. Alpha, delta, theta. Right? Alpha communication, graph line settings. Okay. Delta wave, communication line, screen line settings. Okay. Theta wave, communication. So theta is what line's imagination automatically comes into box. Okay. Box frame. Right away, right? So alpha is the tone line, sets location setting. You can set a beta line wave in position alpha. Sets calculation lines, 8-track location line system. This is where you can add letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols, guys. But all of it correlates and setting the track lines into 0 communications. Sets lines in high centers of 2 and 3 and 4 set location. Okay. So understanding the 8-track line division is understanding the line calculation set to your alpha waves. Sets position northwest, south, and east track location line system into your set position. Okay. 4-track line provision. What's above and what's below. Center correlation setting attraction. Okay. So you really have to understand how the Earth works in your perception, how your astral projections works in your remote, and how your soul works in identification of light of eye perception, and sending calculations to your ethereal planes. Line connecting high interference to your delta communication stream lines, split position lines of 0, 0, sense location of 0, set location of 3, position of 3, position of 2, and set locations. Okay, everything is a wave of central calculations of your settings. Okay, so to understand that through modification line screen high interference, you have to understand the binaries and position your setting, location, and computer of its memory line conditions, starting with the alpha, starting with the delta, and starting with the theta and set locations, top line setting locations. All right, alpha, delta, theta. All right, so the team needs to coordinate and change the word, okay, into a line setting. Now that positions its symbolism. The symbolism puts lines attractions in all calculation, in modifications, and how you say things in alphabetical order. But it's got to be in frequencies in set locations. Alpha, delta, and theta, right there, right? So binary realign setting in a retract location settings, all right? Alpha, delta, theta, okay? That's what the team needs to come into in this application. Species are just going to higher levels of telegraphic calculations, strains. They're crafting their design line settings into all calculations. The tri-factors, tri-screens, high center positions, operations certifications. So they're trying to get their identifications of face recognition settings, how to see themselves through their image of my conception location. All right, so directing lines of position lines of high center interference, ground lines, circle line communications, crop circles, centers, communication line settings, and pi indirect locations in a 4-track location of 5 and 6 line connection. Okay, setting position to its locations, laser tractions and cross lines of 3 set locations of 6. Okay, set a correlation of lights tractions, 2 lines, high center interference of 3, x2000s coming in position to its locations, scanning centers and all track location. Okay, now eye perception opens all settings. So you use the alpha line in position. You use the delta communication line in center calculation, right? And you use the position location of box line. Box line is the theta communication of center. This allocates position of the x2000s and track location of balance. Okay, putting that position lines, track lines of data, process line calculation, streamlines in 3 set locations. Okay. Sets lines use cerebral, cortex lines of designs, comes out of portals and stargates and set location of travel, in high centers in travel and its communication of program set location. Very powerful stuff. All right, so center correlation setting to track lines, energetic waves, pattern line rotation, center correlation setting attraction. Okay, 3 line centers in position of pi. Okay, sets lines of 4 in position of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, and position of 12 through a central set location. Very, very complicated. So the pi generation lines, the x2000s, gets bigger and bigger over time and travel locations. All right? Center correlation line scans the set position of its box, changes the patterns and line condition setting in a solar sail and track location. In that position to its line calculation setting, you come into line setting location of symbols and track line connections, indirect signals of portals and communications, and high tractions of face recognition. Okay. So that's what the team is coming into. They're coming out of structure and they're coming out of face recognition now. The mind itself is its own face line connections. It's until location, until certification, it's interference. That sets position line, track location, interface. But face recognition is setting line connections. So once you get into face line, you're out of structure. Boom. So the alpha and the omega and the micro and the macro come in box line, string line, high center interference, put position of 2 panels, correlation setting and track lines, 3 lines of calculations, 4 lines of tracks, 4 line communication, 3 lines of setting into 7 lines of operations, surface, and face recognition. Okay? All right. So getting into the solar sails of symbols, sets lines of shapes, numbers, and set position line connection settings, right? So break it down. You break it down first. You break these things down, right? What is the triangulation on split line and 3-line communication setting? Right? Triangulations on set locations. So you ask yourself, are the atoms in set lines equal lines of molecules in set design? Or is it molecules and line atoms in set location of design? Right? 2-track line provision, center correlation line centers in position of 2 operation line cycles. Sets correlation settings of A-track, A-track, A-track location setting. Sets position locations, solar sail, and track location of symbolism. Okay? The symbolism is actually the set location. All right? So it's really understanding how to really understand your Earth, okay, your astral projection, okay, and your space. This is what it is in a 3-track line provision and set location. Okay, your Earth, your astro, and your space. Okay, sets communication line centers. You guys refer to location of pyramids, but it's not. It's not a pyramid. It never is a pyramid. It's always track location line system and travels. It has line signal locations and settings in its set locations. So it always has a line cross, equal line communication of programs and center calculations of point lines of traction. Sets its platform in line setting in all levels of process of all communication system and all set location. Very powerful stuff. Okay. Then you can actually see the units and set location line settings into Earth position of travel. Very powerful stuff. Inside line conditions, all levels of operation and set locations. Very complicated. Okay. So the connecting line centers to the actual pyramid itself has a space line, has an equal line communication, but also has a ground line. That's the location of your polarities. You have your masculine and you have female line conditions, right? You're all levels of set location line system. Working with the equal line communication line center expands the bandwidths over pi that sets the panels of communication of streamings in longitude and latitude and set location. Okay, set locations. So space modulation screen is nothing but a cloud. It's a magnetic highway of information. That's all it is, nothing else. Understand your cloud communication lines, understand your line communication setting that puts you lines at all lines in position, location, cloak and dagger. Protecting the system to your location settings when you look at clouds and set location lines of skynets and sky grids and all levels of communications. Flywheel of recognition of time sequence, panels, lines, and high center interference in position with program of all calculation. Hooah! Intelligence. There it is. There's the intelligence. Face recognition. There's always a face recognition in everything that you do. Okay. So this is communicating with this. This created this. This is a position of process. But this is the face recognition that created this. You understand? So your co-creators in line screen. Species are in line set locations out of thoughts and images now. This is processing to higher level in conception how to use the mind of its set locations. It's all levels of generation screen, direct locations, pixelations, and how to use it through your holographic set locations of your settings of solar sails and all travel. Okay. All right. So in that process, we balance the screen lines of face direction at time center. Puts lines of attractions, sets lines of center communication as programs, as center communications. Platforms, set lines, location grids, travel settings in a 12-line rotation surface in a 3-track provision. Okay. Now, we put secure line defense in the 12-line signals. This puts position lines of security line conditions of Pluto. Puts position line center location to your cerebro. Yeah. Okay. Add 2 line screens and set positions calculations in all lines of north of reference and travel. Complicated stuff. And it's all done through the mind line, right? The conception location comes in line settings, all right, in a downshift cross location. Center communication line centers comes into a space line communications. Sets position and track lines into its intelligence of its formation. See? Hoo-ah! Complicated, right? But it's very powerful when you come into that alignment, right? So getting at a structure puts you in another structure line division of face of you. This is where you come into the past line, the present, and the future line coordinates sending attractions. Multiple levels of you starts at correlates to sending track lines of doppelgangers. Now we understand what that doppelganger is line sends to travels. But the point lines of track lines in position location to its algorithm has to really stand the balance and set position of travel communications. Once it understands that, it defies an aligned set locations identification screen lines adaptation system into all calculations of frequencies and track locations of theta communication. Okay. Alpha, delta, theta. All right. So 2-wave central lines in the theta communications, right? Take out the words and turn it into frequencies. The mind accepts the lines of set locations coming in position of travel calculations. So everything that you see is turning into a frequency now. You don't see it as a word now, but you have to break it down in graph, in position locations. Break it down, right? When you get into core line centers at point lines of attractions, okay, it's really understanding how to use your binaries, how to use the transistors of your computer, of your memories. This is all loves of you in all communication setting of the mind, conceptual location of travel of recognition. Okay, point lines of attractions, right? Okay. Box frame and application of triangulate frame. Okay, triangulation frame into star line screen set location of frame. Okay, direct modifications into three waves. Sets line can make it. So I'm showing you guys how to create an algorithm through your binary reline connections of your core settings. Sets position travel calculation of point centers of 0. Sets lines of 1 and 0 in position of 0. Line connections of 1 in position line calculations of 2. 3 set location line setting into symbolism and track location. Okay. Sets location of triangulation line connections all setting. All right, so it's already set up, right? Hieroglyphics, tablets, templates, all set applications, right? Crisscrossing line calculation lines of point lines of attractions. Now, understand how this all works is understanding you inside, right? How to get into modification to specification line screens of your binaries. There's set location lines. So set position of bracket, 301 in traction, right? Sets lines at 3 lines, 0 communications into 1 settings, bracket communication interference. There's the binary tracking lines at 3 provision, 301, right? Cerebral cortex realigns the division line, screen lines, high standard interference, opens all communication as program, and line setting in track location to its measure. Now it scales its balance lines of its capacity over pi, sets a line communication capacitors in all track location setting to transistors of a resetting code line in a decoder line position of its codecs, and line setting all position to its capsule in track location of graph calculations. Very powerful stuff. So that's what you're doing. You're creating an algorithm that creates a line connection to the classifications that sets a line communication of website of image and line condition of teleportation. And that's all you're doing through set location is you're creating teleportation units. Higher levels of communication lines. So we add line set location of Fibonacci, open the signals, sets lines of 2 track lines, 1 line rotations of an atom line center locations. Now in that line center, remember it's all in graph, okay? Setting communications of 4 track lines of zeros and platform in communication lines of a kaleidoscope communication string line as that location. Oh, that my equation, right? Everything is in structure of box mainframe, guys, and that's what you're coming out of. You're coming into face recognition now. So this is the process that we all understand. And when you understand that, then you understand how to use the binary and its retraction, where it comes into its own process in line communication setting to its solar sail and track location. Boom, solar sail. High volume line connections on line center interference into a capsule. Kaleidoscope communication lines, high center interference, and a kaleidoscope communication line settings. Mic and line calculation, Alpha Bravo. Direct lines and location lines. Sending communication line screens and high adaptation surface into line centers. Puts communication line setting in track location line system. In all track location line screens and set lines high center interference of satellites and set locations. Boom. Done by equation. Framing communication line screen. The mind understands everything of its line setting, which is its image of pixelation graph calculations. Now, the point line division changes all levels. Now, this correlates the correlation, calculation, line interference, and applications. Cubical screen lines adaptation. Purple lines of setting and position of travels. This one happens through a TV line screen when you're watching a program instead of location of setting. It's traveling. All right. Direct modification of 3 line communications into infinity line squares. Data position of process in position location and pixelation and calculation of its programming inside location. 3 track locations. Cross line signals in high center. You notice its position line is illuminating its white, right? You don't see it as purple. You see it as white and blue inside location. See? Boom. It's not purple, is it? Is it? Ooh, look at that. All right, so crossing screens, and again, in purple, illuminates the graph line illumination, highest interference. Showing you guys how to come to pixelation, eye receptor, and line calculation setting in position of invisibility line screen locations into all levels of blue and red. and track location. Hoo-ah! So it's amazing. We changed the color line screen. Let's go into red. Red crosses line screen. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 5 line division, screen line interference, Skynet, screen lines, location, Skynets, cloud line generation, screen location, the settings through adaptation. Setting correlation line track lines of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and set location. All right. So cross and line communication line setting sets position location to infinity 8. It's infinity 8 line screen, right? Laser direct location settings. Box line signals and high center interference. Illuminate the graph calculation line setting into invisibility tracks. Sets correlation setting attractions. Sets communication line centers high interference. Sets position operation surface in all travel position locations. Allocate time screens high center interference and travel into line communications and settings. Into 12 graph calculation streamlines in a 4-track line position and provision. Hoo-ah! Pixelation. Hologram. Illumination of blue and set locations of red. Right? Understanding what you're seeing is understanding what you're coming into is what you already know. So your pixelation line to dimension line screen height interference pixelation graph line calculation is changing the symbolism of your line communication of settings of your dimensional and your solar sails of travel locations. Okay, and all set design. Okay, all right. So we're going to stay in line signals. Now we're going into green. Now the data files changes line communications. We center lines of 4 lines attractions, coloration line screens. Now this is a matrix line screen location adaptation surface. This allocates position lines of 4 box location settings of binaries. Sets communication lines and infinity lines of high position location setting attractions. So we got 4, 8 sets lines of high center interference in position of 12. 16 line connection setting and line connection setting. 16 line position location, 17, 18, 20. Puts position lines of 20 over tracks, illuminate the graph calculation streamlines, allocate position of time centers, line grids and line position, all levels of correlation setting attractions and provision of cycles of communication. Hoo-ah! See the numbers in between? There's numbers there, right? 0, 0, 0, right? So 4-track provision, 4 line connections, 4 line division, 4 central communications, and 4 settings and set position, right? So it allocates position of time center of 4 and position line connections of 4. Sets communication line centers of 4 and track locations. Sets lines communication of 4, setting line calculated setting 1, 2, 3, 4 equals lines of 4 and track locations. Binary and reset location of solar sail. 4, 4, 4, 4 equals 4. Solar sail. You see it? Very complicated stuff, all through a hologram, through perception. Your illumination graph line. So when you're wearing those glasses and you see the big screen, you're going to see the illumination in position and visibility of blue and red. That's what you're all coming into. When you take a picture of yourself and you blow yourself up, you're seeing the illumination and the red and the blue around you. That's you through a hologram. But that position of the outline is coming to the inside locations. Light, shades, and shadows are changing the pixelation graph in your mind conceptual locations of allocated position lines of space and time. So it's very powerful what we're all coming into in seconds. Okay, all through illumination of solar graph calculations. 4 channels and position line centers of high calculating line screens equals lines of 4 line rotation centers of travel in all positions. 4 billion cycles, 4 million lines of seconds, 4 line set location of 4 minutes in position of 44 billion screen locations of hours and track locations equals lines of 4 line centers in travel. Very powerful stuff, okay? Because that's what I say it is. It's my program, right? It's not your program, it's mine. Your program is different from my program. So whatever I say goes, right? That's where we're all coming into is our own program settings, our own set locations of our own coding, and set locations. I can say anything, it's all through travel anyway, so it doesn't matter through modification. All right, so in that track lines, you understand illumination graph lines and how it travels to solar sails and track locations, setting line communication of its position. Let's go into gold. We balance the line calculation setting, box lines of frame lines, illumination graph calculations. 4 lines of tractions. Now gold is line communication line centers and track locations. Energized communication higher self is cerebral cortex lines of screen. There's gold around it, right? Setting core lines, setting track lines of 1 in position of cross line, 3 lines, and 4 track locations. setting lines of highest interference, adding 4 lines of tractions, 4 line divisions, 4 correlation settings, and 4 communication setting of solar sail and track location. Hoo-ah! See how you create the solar sails? Anything through a binary reline or a retrack line provision of cycles and all communication of system, all through center calculations. All right. See the face recognition? See the eye line right here? Boom. Okay, right there. That's its intelligence. So everything of its intelligence is its creation that you are in co-creating of. Getting out of memory line puts you in a process of its communication, of its mind adaptation. Understanding yourself through your pixelation graph calculations puts you all levels in position of location, in line centers, and solar graph calculations. Okay? So you can say whatever you want. Okay? Because you are your own program, which is amazing. Doesn't matter what you say because you're already traveling through it. So traveling through it is understanding the identification of its awareness of consciousness that you're looking at, right? Its own intelligence. But you have to control your space first. You got to control your time through modifications, through your own alignments and your own solar cells. So you have to balance that out. You have to really understand how to direct, how to redirect. Let's start with that settings. Understand your binary going up, how to go down, and then go this way, this way. Well, let's go this way. Arrow that indicates this line is center location of setting a travel. Okay, what your binary is doing, it's always going through higher line communications and higher levels of communication setting of travel calculations, right? So you're always working your alpha, you're always working your delta, you're always working your theta. Theta is like communicative box, but it's all through waves now. It's all through central calculation stream locations. And your frequencies as application line screens. Binary communication line screens is 0, 0, 0, 0. It doesn't matter how many zeros I put up in position locations. It doesn't matter if it doesn't make any sense because it makes sense to me. That's all that matters. See? You see what I just said? Reverse psychology and cell locations. It doesn't make sense to you because it doesn't need to understand you. It needs to understand me, not you. You have to understand yourself. To understand yourself is to understand your letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols work for you through an algorithm, works for you through coding. That's how you have to understand your technology of your set locations. So it doesn't matter what you say because it makes sense to you. Okay, all through set locations. Okay, all right. But it's very powerful, when you come in so many different lines of solar sails, right? It's incredible how you just keep adding frames and frames and frames and frames because it's constantly traveling, right? So that's what it is. It's knowing exactly how to get into symbolism of letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. When you understand that, the triangulation line connection system has a solar sail. And then it travels, right? It travels to 2, right? So this equals lines box, triangulation line connection setting, triangulation line communications, right? So we got a position line calculation. Female, male, female, right? So female line center sets locations. We got a box locations in the high center location of male and position of female. So female polarity, male polarity, female polarity. Sets lines at 3 triangulation line connection setting and high setting, right? Sets location, solar sail, track location line system. Okay, solar sail in position comes all communication lines of a 2 track location into 3 setting. See, now it's 3, right? So I set up 2 provision line cycles and it's 2 line settings and high calculations that turn it into line connection of solar sail to a 3. 3 track lines, high center interference, 3 line communications, all line communication line centers, interapplications, and high position locations, in line communication lines of a 4 and track location of solar sail. You see what you do in position locations? Everything is a solar sail, has to be. It has to travel through its water of its containment system, which is all levels of its throat. Okay, very powerful, isn't it? All right, so now you understand the process, how this all works, how to put this all together. So you got to indicate line interference. Let's say you get position of 2, 2, 0, get position of 1, 5, 0, set location of 3 lines, high 1s of 1 line, 0 line, position of 2 lines, 1 line, set location of 2, set location of 1, 1, 1, and 1, 1, 2 in set locations. Okay, binary lines, all right, break it down. Split the on into 3 track line conditions. Okay, so process lines of 2 is traveling, right? So travel communications into solar cell. Soul's line, center, line connection system into 3 travel line conditions. Okay, sets position line calculates setting, opens up the position locations and all travel position location at 2, 2. Right, so from here to here to here, right? So I'm just showing you how you come into that process. So you can put all these numbers in sequence and come in position to its locations into higher levels of higher line communication, dimensional of higher line communication of sales and direct location. Okay, there's the intelligence. See the eye? Profile. There's the eye. Boom. There's always intelligence in everything that you do, right? So you got to get out of structure, a box triangulation, triangulated box to come into your face. Hoo-ah! Your face. Okay? Which is your inner child. Now you understand the process, how you come into the conception of the mind, to understand the structure of you first, the pixelation graph calculation lines, into coming out of modification lines of TVs, line condition computers, or amplification of your phones, coming into face recognition of set location. Okay? All right. So it gets much easier. It really does. It really gets much easier. I know it's complicated, but complicated is good because that keeps you on your toes. That gets you all levels and how to really understand the process, how it works in your set locations. Especially when you're working with your binaries. So it doesn't matter how many numbers you put up in position attractions. It doesn't matter the correlation line condition setting because it all makes sense to you. It all makes sense to you, right? It has nothing to do with anybody else, just you. You have the coding, you know exactly what you're doing with attractions. Setting line communication across line screens, setting line communication lines of 3-line interference, setting positional levels on tracking truth and false narrative location setting, high calculation modification screen interference. I know what I'm doing through adaptation location setting, line condition of 4 lines of tracks, in line communication of provision location setting, into solar sales and track locations. Okay? So all you're doing in position or binary is creating a formation of teleportation into all communication lines in high center and interference of face recognition. Okay? Getting out of the structure sets you free. You finally get to see no more levels at the reflection of your face. Your face modulates the screen lines. That's set location of mirror, set location line screens. This is you in set locations. Setting your system in position. This is you looking inside you in set locations. Okay, so this is leaving. So where are we in track line? Where are we in process? What is the matrix? I'm going to blow you guys away. You're inside your mirror. You don't even recognize it. That's the matrix. Why do you think there's mirrors? Oh my goodness me. Setting position of its program is really understand the mirror line conditions of you through revolution. The understand location lines is a revelation to its evolution. But the track to its communication lines, screen lines, is setting you free out of its mirror, coming into your process of you and all lines of all multiple levels of you and track location, high center positions, and track line conditions setting to earth habitation zones and all calculation. Hoo-ah! Set free! So this, the mirror itself, is its box frame that you're in. That's why you have mirrors. You ever notice that line connection, high center interference, and position of travel lines where you see location of TVs or in location settings of phones or in location setting of computer line communication setting? You ever understand why you have mirrors? You ever understand why you look inside the mirror? You ever understand why you're looking at a mirror? What is caught in between inside locations? There's no levels of reflection. It's you inside the mirror. It's the mirror of you got to get out of. Hello? Okay? So that's getting you out of perception, how you see things, the Mandela effects. Okay? That's all it is, right? Getting out of the mirror of its reflection. Box frame, mainframe does matter, right? So when you are set free of face recognition, okay, things get interesting. So you're no longer in position of the settings of panels. You are no longer here. You are here. You are here. You are here. You are here now. Okay. You are no longer in box frame. Okay. So what that does, it changes everything to your background and your foreground. And you become everything of center, everything locations. So there's no background or foreground, just you. That's it. You're out of the structure. You're out of design. That's it. But you have to understand the directions to your binaries, to your solar sails to get there. Right? Understanding that in position to its locations puts you all levels of calculations. That's right, Gypsy. See, Gypsy, it's about understanding the team now, how you got into that position in the first place. Being locked in your own communication setting to your own resolution line communication of your mirrors of yourself. Hoo-ah! Now you understand why you have mirrors? Now you understand why you have computers? Now you understand why you have phones? That's what you got to get out of to set yourself free, guys. Yes. It's exciting what you're coming into, right? Understanding that process and position lines, like center lines and communication setting, once you get out of box, right? Your position lines comes into face recognition, travel calculation lines, and point lines, system, all calculation. Okay, so you come all lines of multiple levels of view of face recognition. So it's like you're pawns on a chessboard, basically moving yourself around, putting energy signatures, jump scars, line condition settings, and all lines of communication. Apply it to your position lines to anywhere you want in track applications of solar set applications through you identifications and face recognition. Right? So you're going to be you everywhere. That's what it is. So that's really more understanding how this comes in formation of face recognition. Okay. You ever notice why General's always in face recognition? You ever notice why everything I draw is face recognition? That's the perception that you guys are coming into. When you come out of the structure, that's what you come into. See, that changes everything through its settings now. Okay. The most powerful thing is to get out of the back and the foreground of you. That's what you have to come out of, right? That's what you're coming out of. Okay. So when you get out of that line connection setting, line position locations, your position center changes everything through clocking. Like you really are, whoa. Okay. You're just like, you're looking over here, you're looking over here, and in position locations, you're no longer tither. You're, whoa, okay, I'm more wobbly now. What's going on here? I don't see panels, I just see myself. I just see myself now through face recognition everywhere. So processing that is understanding the pixelation to your settings. To really understand that is how you see yourself through perception. All through coloration and all through lights and all space and all through time, right? It's just all levels of view through modification. How you see yourself through face recognition. Sets you free, right? So things get a lot more easier through forming an equation. And anything you do, you understand how to travel through into one location, right? One-to-one solar sail. Okay. Now, in complete line cycles, sets lines of communication, right? Working with the atom lines, working the molecule lines, working with the fractals communications, working with the protons, electrons, neutrons, and photons. Hoo-ah! Okay, working for you now, right? Turning your position line centers in line communications, and you know what? Phase recognition. Okay. Setting position line calculation streamlines the calculation, you know what, to line communications of face recognition. Okay. So you're no longer in two panels. You're no longer in black screen and set location to a mirror of you. You're just you. So, yeah, your spidey senses are tingling. Yeah, set locations. But understand your code weaving, your telecommunication, your telegraphings, and all of your teleportation going to put you in a higher line condition to your settings through division. This is going to highlight your communication, how you see yourself, and all levels of signals, guys. This gets you in higher lines of communications. So the next time you look at the mirror, there's no reflection. You just see you. Right? Yeah. It's like, woo! What a relief! Right? Knowledge is the healing of myself. I can help others to help themselves to heal. You got to help yourself completely. You can love and support everybody in line conditions, but healing somebody else, they have to understand their own setting of their own minds, of their own conception of time and their soul identifications. So focus on yourself. Okay. It's very hard if you don't understand you first. You've got to express yourself honestly, especially coming to your imaginations. How to understand how to go through one, how one turns into a bicycle, or how a two turns into an apple, all through a hologram. Because there's nothing you can't do in the spiritual reality, in your position of real time. That changes everything in your formation locations of your dualities. What reality do you want a mind shift to be there? You travel there because you're already there. You've already done this. It's not a process that you're coming into. It's a process of already knowing what you've already had. Okay? And that puts you in a position locations. Whoa, it's in my hand right now. I see it. It's getting heavy. It's getting heavier. When it gets heavier, it's coming more in real time. Okay? So that's what it is. But to understand, to set yourself free, is to set yourself free from everything that you see through perception. You can't be blocked in any way and form. You see yourself in all lines of all communication. No more reflection. No more line calculation setting off calculations. All you see is yourself without no line communication or reflection of you. There's no reflection, just you. Okay? So there's a reason why we have windows of everything that we see. Everything is a box frame. Your theta position to start out the triangulation. Now it's a box frame. Now you have to stay in the box frame and the main frame, right? So when you get a picture and you're in a position, this is you in correlation. Okay, this is you. Okay, very powerful stuff. That's you, right? So when somebody takes a picture of you, you automatically travel here. Okay, you automatically travel here. You automatically travel here, right? This is all levels of you in different multiple levels of you with no panels, or no structure, with no design in said location. Mainframe box. Okay. Now, once you understand that, then there's a space frame. Okay. So you're actually there. It's not filtered. You're actually there. So there is no background. There is no foreground. You're just there. You're actually there in real time. Now, if you want to go back in time and see yourself in that image, you're back in time, right where that image is on that day. You feel the energy, you feel the signatures, you're in those set locations. But the one thing you don't want to do is leave a jump scar, because that changes your center correlation setting track line as a part of accelerated space and time. So in that set line connected to interference, you have to understand how that works and process of all communication to your part accelerators, into your calculation setting, to your exhibits, and your in and out, and your audios and input locations of where you go through Stargate location settings. It's very important you understand that. Because when you start to see through perception with no filter, with no structure, with no design, and you see yourself, you're actually there in real time. Okay? And that's what you're coming into. Okay? That's when you take pictures of general, that's how you see general. Because general is everywhere. He's just everywhere. You know, I'm not filtered by anything. I go back in time and future of time, center of time, present of time, past of time, correlations of time, positions of time, back force line communication of time, center line calculations of time, future correlation setting of time, line calculation setting of time, line communication interference of time. General is everywhere, guys. Everywhere that you can imagine. Okay. I'm not in the box frame. I'm not in the main frame. I'm just in the center of everything. Okay. So, what do you think about that now? It's much easier of what's happening to you now, right? To understand how you see through a window frame and how to go through box frames and how to go through main frames and space frames and ultra frames Anything in calculations, all calculations of frames, directing frames, signal frames, correlations frames, traction frames, computer frames, all lines of communication, interline connections of frame, interceptions line calculations of frames. Frames, box frame, main frames, doesn't matter. What matters is you don't have to worry about going from here and there because you're set free. Okay? Going in and out of places that you never thought you could go, right? And that body's got to be at a certain level of frequency, right? In space and its time, because it goes in its own universe location, its own acceleration. So you can go through time jump. You can go through location setting. You go through all lines of all communication at different stargates, different portals, different dimensions, different space, different time, different universes. And the locations of all lines of calculations with settings, all through set design. Okay? Being everywhere all at once. All time frames all at once, just like that. Okay? But you have to understand you first through face recognition. And that's what the team's coming into. Okay? That's why I want you guys to identify your settings of your solar sails and set locations and travel. Okay? Because once you identify the intelligence that you're communicating with, you understand its solar sail, because you are saying everything that you do, it does everything. But it has its own story, has its own frame, has its own sail, has its own intelligence, has its own operation, has its own formation of its own storyline. There's no difference. You're just coming back to everything that you already know. You can't be separated from that. You can't be separated from your phone. You can't be separated from your watch. You can't be separated from your digital pad. You can't be separated from your car. You can't be separated from your shirts. You can't be separated from your glasses because you've already done it. Now you just have to understand the frequency of patterns and get into matching its set location of space and time through settings. Then you understand the process why you have a computer. Then you understand the process why you have a digital pad. Then you understand the process why you have a phone or you have a watch. Okay? So it's about understanding when you come into that point line communication setting, you realize if I'm co-creator, everything around me I co-created in my hologram. Yes. Okay. Co-creation is everything in setting, but it's a recall to your memory. Creating is coming into the reality out of line calculation, out of structure, out of design, interface recognition of set locations into real time. Okay, so these are the processes you have to go through. Really understand yourself through your binaries, understanding how to use that through your resistors. It's the resistors you have to balance out, not the transistors. Okay, the binary has its memory and it really has to understand how to control its thoughts so the thoughts can control its actions of its emotional setting, of its solar sail of set design. Okay, so you're taking a sail and you're just traveling. That's all you're doing. That's all you're doing is traveling. You're traveling here, traveling here. Doesn't matter where you go as long as you're going in the right set locations. You're getting into that lines of data, process all that communication with files. You're getting understanding the files, you understand the position, you understand the programs, you understand where you're going in its alignment. So the data formations of the cerebral get you in position line connection setting at all formation line connections and all characterization of balance of face recognition. Okay, so you're platitude yourself every single time you travel. So when you travel, you have to understand the multiple levels of you. Now the team line communication screen line is coming into past, present, future now, multiple levels of themselves and position locations. So look out, team. Flux, capacity, communication, streamlines, and 3 settings and calculations: face recognition, face recognition, face recognition. Okay. Forks in the road, guys. Forks in the road. 3 line connections. That's what you're coming into right there. Boom. 3. Okay. So understand that 3 set lines cover the sending lines and position location of your finger points. Track location lines of 2 and line centers of 1. Positions of 4 and track location lines of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sets the indicated line screen, the highest center interference, and position of its thumb and track location. Now, directing lines of its positional line center interference of its hand. Now, the hand itself has to really stand the mechanism lines of travel. point lines of tracks, I center its line communication to its program. Sets lines of communication setting at low levels of center operation. Panel communication of its importance is really to understand how to use the communication of the sun, how to modify the signal lines of clock line communication setting to each finger point and set design, puts position lines of travel in all lines of all communication setting in its conception of space modulation and set connections. The power of the mind is the conception lines of force, a track location lines of electrical line communication. Sets program lines, electrical line communication lines of 3-track line connections. Okay. So the modification lines of center, inset position triangulation line connection of its program, inset location and settings of its intelligence frames of face recognition. Okay. That's where team's coming into. So they understand that lines, they have to understand the balanced position of ground lines and earth line rotation surface. Then they understand this baseline. Once they understand this baseline, they get on a full signal in set position of face recognition. Okay? Full signal of face recognition, all through hand identification. Boom. See it? See the face inside? Barcode line connections, light signals, all line rotations, how to use the position of the thumb, indicate line connections of the sun, set lines of weather pattern correlations and track lines, face recognition. See it? All through identifications, right? So the balance screen takes them out of box triangulation box. That puts in line calculation, line center inference, how to use the earth perception location of identification code screens. Sets all communication line screens in line communications. Getting into 24, 48, 72, 144, puts in position, all levels, high calculation line settings, all track locations of face recognition. Okay, starting off with the ground lines of the earth. Setting rotation lines of center communication, setting the power direction time sequence, and flywheel communication of balance. Put the position of polarities and position of balance line communication in your centers and travel its correlation, putting in space lines anomaly and line rotation centers in a full communication of face recognition. Okay? All right. So we're good. That's it. I know it's a lot to take in. I know it's a lot to process. Okay? But in that position, that's what's happening. We have to start identifying ourselves now. Really information on what the mind really is and what it can do. And the only way to do that is to change everything inside your system locations, all through modification. So getting into the face recognition not only sets you free, but you're not in multiple levels of set location of anything through source or anything limited. You really understand the structures of you through time and position location to its location, or anything through its age, or anything through its polarity, or anything through its calculation settings. Okay, getting into that comes timeless, shapeless, and formless, all through face recognition. Spider-Man, right? Right? Be anything you want. Be all that you can be. Put yourself in all lines of all communications to your imagination, right? Because it's much easier to process when you're not boxed in mainframe, okay? Through matrix and all calculation. All right. All right. See you soon.